Hi, I'm Don Gibbs, owner and founder of Ricochet Off-Road, and I would like to spend a few moments and talk about skid plates. What we have here, this is our latest and greatest creation. We have a 2019 Honda Talon, and this is our full, what we call our full UHMW skid plate set. Even though we're calling it our full UHMW skid plate set, we still use aluminum in some of the components, specifically the A-arm guards, what we call the rock sliders, floorboard plates, various other names, rocker panels, whatever you want to call them. And then we have, down here we have these rear link guards. Now we did these all in aluminum, and I will go into the specifics of that in a few moments. The first thing I want to do is talk about material differences. I get a lot of questions about the UHMW versus the aluminum. We do make an aluminum set, a complete aluminum set for this machine that's made out of 3/16 aluminum. We've extensively tested and been riding, dirt bikes and ATVs for 30 plus years, and so, we're pretty familiar with the performance of all the different materials. And what we found is when it comes to actually protecting the machine, both materials will do a very good job. What we found in the differences between the two materials is, first of all, the advantages of the UHMW, which what people like, is UHMW is a very slippery material. So it tends to slide over things easier. To a point. We've also found that as long as the rocks are fairly smooth and logs and most of the stuff you would encounter, the UHMW does a really nice job of actually, sliding over it. Unless the rocks get extremely jagged and extremely sharp, we found that because the material is so soft that they can actually dig in and penetrate deeper into the material, which they can't do on the aluminum, because the aluminum is so much harder. And so if you're going over real jagged, sharp, pointy rocks, then probably not any different than the aluminum in that regard. The other nice thing about the UHMW plates is they tend to run quieter. They don't clank when stuff gets kicked up to them, and they also kind of deaden out the sound that you would get from the motor noise. The aluminum can be a little reflective and sometimes can reflect some of that your engine noise back up into the into where you can hear it a little bit more. And the other nice advantage to the UHMW over the aluminum is the plastic is more flexible. So if it does take a big hit, it'll move a little bit and come out. The aluminum can, when it takes a big hit, it can bend. And sometimes, years later, if you've had aluminum plates on your machine, you take them off. Sometimes you have to put them on the floor and take a big hammer and kind of flatten them out and get them back on. But like I say, when it comes to actually protecting the machine from damage from rocks, either one is going to do a very good job. But the difference for one of the decisions for most consumers is that the aluminum is less money. The UHMW is the more expensive option over the aluminum. I get a lot of questions on why we don't use UHMW for like these A-arm guards, and the main reason is we just feel that the aluminum is just a much better option in that area because of the formability of it. This UHMW plastic is a very funky plastic. It's not like a normal plastic. It's not a moldable plastic like most plastics. It's very strange, and to actually bend it and form it, especially at extreme angles like a 90 degree, it's really hard to do. You can heat it in an oven and do it, but when you heat it in the oven, it expands like 10 to 15%, and then when it cools at 5% to 10% smaller than the original size. It's just really hard to work with. And plus the thickness, just if you can look, I'm pointing over here how we've got this really tucked in to really get in here on the boot, and we have all this limited clearance here on these, on the brake caliper and everything, and you just can't do that with the with the UHMW. The aluminum really gives us the advantage of the formability and the thinness of it to really tuck it in and really give yourself good protection to your CV boots. And plus the stiffness of the aluminum, if you do really take a hard hit, you know, it's going to keep you from bending an A-arm. And the same thing down here on the link guards as well. We feel the same. That these small components like this, we really feel that you don't really get the advantage of the UHMW that you do in the much larger areas. I want to talk about the other. We do have another material option, which I do not have on this machine. We don't have it for this particular machine, but we also, for certain models, we do make what we call our hybrid set, where we take the 3/16 aluminum and then we actually attach a layer of the 1/4" UHMW to it. It's a very good set. We have a lot of folks that really like that set, but like I said, we only make that for limited number of machines. The drawback to that is it's expensive because we're basically making 2 skid plate sets. What I'd like to talk about now is our mounting philosophy. First I'd like to mention is most of our competition, the way they, especially in the UHMW, is the way they mount it is they use a lot of self-tapping screws where you have to drill holes into your frame tubes and then thread in these self-tapping screws. We personally don't like that because, first of all, we don't like drilling a bunch of holes into your frame, and second of all, those frame tubes are very thin-walled tubing, so you've got a bunch of screws that are basically being held in by about 1, maybe 2 threads at the most, so they're very easy to strip out and lose them. We try to avoid drilling at all costs. This particular set has no drilling. This is a complete straight bolt-up set. We have a few other applications where there are some minor drilling involved, but no more than 3 or 4 holes tops, from what I remember. And we never drill into an actual frame tube. If we do drill a hole, it's always into just a gusset, a flat gusset plate. So we're not, you know, Swiss cheesing your frame. And when we do mount these, we try to use as many of the factory mounting points as we can. This has been a pretty good platform to work with because Honda has done a pretty good job of providing us with a lot of good mounting points, which we use here, and they're all recessed. You can see everything is flat. There's no protruding bolt heads. It's all flat and smooth. So, you know, when you're sliding over stuff, you're not catching and beating up the heads of your fasteners. But where we don't have the option of a mounting, a lot of times there's just not quite enough mounts from the factory to do an adequate job. And this is where we use our specially built clamps. I'm going to show one right there. This is our clamp. This is a steel, this is a chromoly steel clamp that we manufacture in-house, and it's made out of 4130 chromoly, and then when we get done forming them, we actually heat treat these to give it a memory. So it's almost like a spring steel. So we actually can preload the clamp a little bit, which means we can actually make the distance of the diameter of the tube down to this thing just slightly smaller, so that when you pull this down, it really pulls and clamps the skid plate tight to the frame. I feel that this is probably one of the biggest advantages to Ricochet skid plates, because we've been using this mounting system for, I've been making these clamps for over 30 years now, and our Ricochet skid plates stay tight. They don't come loose and rattling because these clamps are very tough, and if the plate does take a big hit, the clamp can actually deflect a little bit, but because of the heat treat and the spring-like quality, it'll go back. It has memory. It'll go back to its original shape. Also, we have an all-metal lock nut welded on these things too, so that you don't lose your bolts. You know, the vibration and stuff keeps them out. I wanted to point this out. This is something new we have this year. This is our new low-profile mounting bolt. This is mainly being used. on our motorcycle and on our regular ATV aluminum skid plates, because a lot of those don't have the recesses in them like the UHMW does. So we wanted to keep the mounting, the head of the mounting hardware as low as possible to keep it from hanging up, and it slides over things. This A-arm guard actually has these mount bolts in it right here. One other thing I want to talk about is you know, obviously, you know, since these are aluminum, but they're obviously not the aluminum color. This is what they call anodizing, and we do offer this as a custom optional on all of our aluminum plates. You can have them anodized in a color, and I think the colors we are offering is black, red, blue, gold, orange, and a gunmetal gray. And so if you want to jazz up the look of your machine and get a little more customized than just the straight aluminum, that is an option we do provide on all the aluminum parts. You can see that all of these, the arm guards, these floorboard plates here, which are aluminum, are, and the rear link guards are anodized. Excuse me. So that's about it. In conclusion, I would just like to say, good riding.